Hello, welcome back to Do It All. Today, I think we're going to be making some homemade pasta. I've been hyper-focusing on pasta. So we're going to make some homemade pasta with just 3 ingredients: flour, eggs, and olive oil. So the first ingredient we're going to need is flour. So grab your flour. I'm just going to use a big jug of it because that's what it's in. And I'm just using all-purpose, finely ground unbleached flour. Then you're going to need a 1 cup measuring cup. And 1 cup per 2 eggs. About 2 eggs. So you're just going to put a whole cup. I'm going to do 2 cups today because I want plenty of it. I want plenty of, whatever those things I'm making are called, noodles. So 2 cups on the counter. Now grab the back of your measuring cup and just circle your way down so you've made a volcano. Grab 2 eggs. I'm going to start with 4 eggs because I have 2 cups of flour. So 1 egg, 2 egg, 3 egg, 4. Now we're going to grab, remember what I said, keep a clean workspace. Put away those. Now grab a fork. We're going to whisk these. I guess I'm going to use a spoon. We're going to whisk these eggs because I'm going to whisk these eggs because to keep a better overall consistency through our pasta. If you don't whisk your eggs before, you might have clumps of yolk or white inside of your eggs. So whisk your eggs well before we mix together things. Now that my eggs are pretty well mixed, I'm going to slowly bring in this flour to the top inside of this bowl. I'm going to start with a good amount and mix this in. We want to mix this in as we need it so we don't get too much flour inside of our eggs to get the perfect consistency for this egg. What's it called? Egg noodle. So slowly mix them in. If you do, you see I'm having spillage over the sides. Just recover that spillage with some flour. Don't be in a rush, because if you're in a rush, you could get spillage, and the more eggs you're doing, the mess is going to be that comes on your counter. So mix these eggs in well. It makes a fun sound. I wonder if you guys I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but it makes a fun sound. Remember, you need to slowly bring in this flour, slowly, because you want to have a perfect consistency all the way through. Slowly bring in the flour. If you bring it in too fast, you might get too much flour, and it's hard to add more liquid. Let me finish mixing this, then I'll show you what it should look like when you're done. After mixing for a while and slowly bringing in the flour, you're going to notice this is starting to thicken up. Soon you're not going to want to mix this with a spoon. Put in a good amount of flour. Don't overestimate how much you're going to need. Put in a good amount, then roll this in. Then you're going to want to pick this up with your hands and finish mixing it that way. Now I'm going to slowly bring this in with my hands. You're going to want to, you should not bother. It's not like a pancake mix or any other bread where you don't want to overmix. This, you're trying to bring out those glutens. So it's fine if you overmix. Slowly bring it in with these tools. Slowly bring it in. Now you're going to want to mix this. It's going to be very messy. Before we move on, we're going to have to wash our hands to get off all the stuff or flour. If you're noticing that your dough is still sticky after mixing in all the flour, I'll show you what to do about that. Make a little well inside of your dough. It doesn't have to dig because we're working with dry ingredients. Now you can go down, grab your big bucket of flour. My flour is sticking. Now I'm just going to get a teeny bit more flour and just put that on top of my dough. Now move your flour back to the side. Don't overdo this part because you don't want there to be too much flour. Now you can see I should have oiled down the counter before I started because my dough is sticking to the counter. So you need to so you guys can see what I've been doing. I was just mixing in this flour on the side. I'm going to continue mixing this. It's really sticky, so I'm trying my best to not, because I don't want stuff on my hands. So keep on mixing this in until I'll show you when I'm done, I'll show you the consistency of the dough we need. After you get your dough to not be as sticky anymore, now you need to knead in this flour like this, as shown. Knead until flour is well mixed inside of the dough. We're going to mix till we have a smooth dough. After you've mixed all of your ingredients together, you should be starting to get a dough ball like this. You can tell this is not done because you can still see the white dough on the outside. Keep on kneading this dough, then I'll show you the next step. Knead this dough for a long time. It's going to be a long time if you're doing it by hand. But by hand is how you're going to get the smoothest, most perfect, delicious, chewy dough. Chewy. That sounds weird. Chewy. Chewy, 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 chewy. Blah. Now it's time to add a teeny bit of our olive oil. I personally love this olive oil right here. It's a garlic olive oil. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to make a teeny bit of a well inside of my dough and just pour a splash of this olive oil in there. It gives your noodle a teeny bit of seasoning. You don't want whatever sauce you're pouring on top to have seasoning. You also want your noodle. I'll show you more ways to season your noodle later in the episode. After kneading your dough for a long time, it should start getting this texture. As you guys know, all I'm doing is kneading in this olive oil, which is really helping with the consistency of the dough. Keep on kneading. To give you guys a little tip, you know you brought out enough gluten. If you make this into a ball, you press down about a 1/4 inch and it springs back all the way up. So just knead in till the noodle you believe is done. My dough is coming to an end. My dough is almost done. I'll show you how the springiness of the dough, what the effect should be to get the perfect dough. Now, if I bring this dough up close, the springy effect, I just clicked my camera. The springy effect should be where you touch. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Let me grab my camera. The springy effect should be where if you push down, you see how that springs back up? I don't think this is quite done, so I think I'm going to have to knead this dough. How you knead the dough is you just roll forward, pull back up, roll forward, and then after you do that a couple times, you have to grab onto the other way. Roll forward, grab on, pull forward. Grab on, push. Grab on, push. And it like rolls up your arm, which makes for a really good dough. You have to do this to bring out the gluten. Don't stress about overworking your dough. That's not how pasta works. I think my dough is done. If you see, I press down right here and it springs back up. You see, you can't even tell that I pressed down anymore. Press down a teeny bit, springs back up. Can you see that? That's how you know that your dough's done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some flour on this, wrap it in saran wrap, and let it rest for 30 to 45 minutes. So like I said before, we're just going to grab a sprinkle of our flour and just rub it in. We're going to wrap this with the saran wrap because we don't want it to dry out, which will make do for a not tasty noodle, which there's no point in making a noodle if it isn't tasty. So we're just going to finish doing that. So we're going to grab, doesn't look like I have saran wrap, so I'm just going to grab some aluminum foil. This is not half, it's half a thing of aluminum foil. I'm going to grab this full thing of aluminum foil. And remember, we need a clean workspace to roll our dough out. Now get your pot of water ready to boil. Get your pot of water ready. Put it on a burner on high. Well, we salt the water because we want our noodles to be seasoned as well as the toppings. After you have that, make sure to well stir in that salt and let this boil. Now we're going to go roll out our dough. Now time to grab your big thing of dough that has been sitting for about 30 to 40 minutes. You don't have to be as vigorous as I am from taking it out. It's a nice clump of dough. Make sure to keep a clean workspace while working. Heavily flour your table to make sure there's no sticking of the dough so it doesn't stick. Because I've had bad experiences with dough sticking to rolling pins. Half bad experiences. Make sure to welly coat your rolling pin in olive oil. Just rub it on, put some on your hand and rub it on. After you finish coating this rolling pin, now grab your dough. This dough roll is pretty small. You're not going to want to roll out more dough than this at once because it'll be an arm workout. So now I'm just going to get this dough kind of rounded off some. And then I'm just going to kind of press it out with my hands just to give it that shape. Now I'm just going to roll it out once to a thinner shape. And it's going to be kind of difficult because of how much gluten is let out inside this dough. And after I do this once, you see there's these curved edges. I'm just going to fold these in to give it a nice straight edge after the end result. It's going to be a lot of work to roll these out. You're going to want to roll it out to paper thin. This is when a machine would come in handy. When you're rolling out your dough, make sure to flip sides when you're rolling it to prevent stickage. And the dough is going to consume most of this flour, so while you're doing it, you're going to have to sprinkle more flour on the table pretty frequently. You'll know your dough is done rolling when if you lift it up, you can see your hand through it in the light. I am not quite there. Keep on rolling till it's really thin and you should be able to see your hand through it in the light. To remind you, this is not an easy process. It's going to take a while. Now my dough is done, because look, you can see my hand through it. I don't know if you guys can see this, but look, can you see my hand through the dough? I don't know if it shows up good on camera, except if you hold your dough up to the light, I can see my hand through it. And make sure to be checking up on those other things you're cooking. And I just put a cap on top of my water to make sure it gets to make sure it boils faster. Now you're going to want to grab a knife and first just cut your dough into half. Actually, I think I might cut mine down here first. Get that to the side and then maybe cut right here and right here. And this is really not the knife you should be using. Let me grab a different one. Great, perfect. Let me just use this cutting board. Now grab one of your sheets of pasta, lay them out on your cutting board, and just cut these thick, nice pieces of pasta like this. Now set these pastas up to the side. We'll come back to them in a second. Boiling, not pasta. After your water is boiling, make sure to welly salt it again. Now go over, grab your pasta, and put it in one piece at a time. I'm going to put it in one piece at a time to keep it from sticking. At the same time, I'm going to get this water moving it fast in a circle. Be careful not to burn yourself during this process. It's only going to want to boil for 3 to 4 minutes. Now it's time to take the noodles out. You're going to want to use a spoon or tongs. I prefer tongs, except the only thing I know where it is a spoon right now. This is not nearly as easy as using tongs. I'm going to find a pair of tongs. This is dreadful. You can also pour it through a strainer, which I actually am. Now we're gonna plate our pasta.